really excited to be doing our first ever live video podcast. Amer Shakra, one of our amazing alum, is joining me in studio. So thank you very much for joining me, Amer.
You're welcome. My last name starts with AB. So a lot of time in school,
Yeah.
people, I would get called up first.
Yeah.
So it's
That's
an
the
honor.
thing.
I feel right at home. So,
Well, and you perform like a record breaker all the time with us. So we'll get into that later. But why don't we start, Emmer, before you joined the program? What was your experience? In high school before going to university?
yeah, before joining the program, specifically the Student Works management program,
Yes.
I always had like an ambition of actually doing something in the world. And I was 18 years old. I was at a house party,
Yeah.
as an 18-year-old is. And we were playing like beer pong. And I was playing beer pong, and this kid, Ben Harris, just out of nowhere, is like, "Yo, who wants a job?" And I threw my hand up. And he got me a job working as a food runner.
Okay.
Now, didn't do too well there. It was at a super high-end country club.
Yes.
And at the time, I didn't have that big of eye for like detail.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't in my element where
Yes.
like, other things that StudentWorks helped me very much understand what my element is. So one of the things, I had a nickname called Teaspoon because one time this elderly gentleman asked for a soup spoon because his soup game, no spoon. So I grabbed a teaspoon that looks very similar to a soup spoon. I have to like make it to the record.
Yeah.
So then the kitchen found out, and once the chefs have something to roast you on, you basically stand no chance. So that was terrible. And then I got a job working at TD Bank. Around this time in my life, I started doing Toastmasters,
Okay.
which helps with public speaking. I had like a vision of one day becoming prime minister. I wanted to make a difference in the world, and that's what I thought was the easiest way to make a difference. Right now, I think business. You can have a bigger impact personally, just in my opinion. But I was at a subway station in the subway track, lady in front of me with her friend talking about work. They worked at TD. I was like, "Hey, I want a job at TD. That sounds cool." She's like, "Here's my card." Her name was Chantel. I called her, got the job. And then just as a teller selling, I kind of made a ugly realization. No matter how hard I worked,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't make more money. I was capped at my $18 an hour.
Right.
And they tried to roll out like a credit card program where if you sell a specific amount of credit cards to old ladies that don't know what a credit card is, you
Right.
make an extra $50 on your Christmas bonus.
Right.
So I thought I was balling out of control. And then that's when I met Michael Hawley.
Right.
And Michael Hawley is an alumni of the Student Works management program.
Absolutely.
And I truly believe he embodies a lot of the values of that.
He does.
And so he was the catalyst, a product of this program that really helped me see what was possible for me. I knew I wanted to be successful in business.
Right.
I knew I wanted to pave a path for me and my family. Here I am, an immigrant coming across the ocean, 12 years old. I'm the oldest. My dad's selling all his assets. I knew I wanted to create something worthwhile,
Right.
but I had no idea what the vehicle was.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I ran into Michael in the StudentWorks management program, that's when it became actually exceptionally clear. Oh, those people that make a lot of money, those people that get to be on TV, those people that get to lead, they have skills that I don't have. And all of a sudden, here's this sandbox where not only can I get the support, but the mentorship and the competitive atmosphere, like a healthy competitive atmosphere, that can allow me to discover, well, how can I become that best version of myself? Because I remember at that age, there was a distinct disconnect. I would be really obsessed with listening to motivational videos.
Okay.
And I'd watch Kobe Bryant
Right.
compilations. But there was always this feeling of being lost.
Okay.
That like, hey, I have this ambition, but I have no place to extract it.
Yes.
And that's, meeting Michael and StudentWorks really was a big difference for me.
Yeah. Yeah. We've talked often about this. Ambition is really important. to be successful, you know, and having that desire to want to win. And on the other hand, knowing what to do to fulfill on that ambition is also really important. And so when you think about, you know, your time at Student Works, what skills or maybe mindsets really made a difference for, I guess, your success at Student Works, and then since Student Works?
Yeah, I'll start with the skills. It's very important, like for context, is the country I was raised in. It didn't matter how skilled you were.
Right.
It just actually didn't. What mattered was, what's your last name, who's your dad, what are your connections, how close are you to the royal family. And so there was this clear appreciation when I came to Canada and I was a student at university, that like, hey, merit matters. And so, okay, how do I get the results that I want to get? Well, I have to deserve them.
Right.
The best, easiest way, I think, to get anything you want in life is to deserve it. But here I am. I didn't deserve anything.
Right.
I was pretty much useless. I had like a political science degree and like philosophy, you know, I could debate with you
Yes.
about nothing for a bit and then feel really smart afterwards. I can make a quip, but ultimately when it came to drive value in the marketplace, I was worth $18 an hour.
Right.
And so with Student Work specifically, I think the most overwhelming skill that I have learned and took away is what I would call the skill of collaboration. Because here's how business makes sense to me.
Right.
Somebody out there has a problem. They have like a house of theirs that maybe needs some work.
Right.
That's a problem.
Yes.
And then there's another person out there who is bored at their job, who also has a problem where they want to be more outdoors. They want to be more customer facing. And so here's this person, and then here's this other person with a problem with their house. If I can facilitate collaboration between these two individuals and have them walk away with a win, and have them walk away with a win, if I have the skills to artifact a transaction where those two wins happen, it's possible that I can also get a small win
Right.
in between.
Right.
Okay, well, how do you facilitate collaboration? You need to be worthy of collaboration. So I had to learn how to present myself. Michael Hawley almost fired me 2 weeks in
Okay.
because I didn't understand what it meant to show up on time.
Okay.
No idea. He'd be like, hey, we're going to start this sales activity at 6 o'clock. Be there at 6 o'clock. Okay, I'll show up 6:03. Hey, I'm here. No, well, we said 6 o'clock.
Right.
Okay, so I couldn't keep my word.
Right.
I would go at the door. I was like a babbling baboon. And so nobody had any idea what I was saying.
Right.
And so to understand how to communicate, to understand how to be integrous, to understand how to be professional, to understand how to price something that is fair for both parties, to understand to uphold different agreements. I mean, those are some of the small things, but the more fancy things is I learned how to market.
Right.
I learned how to sell. I learned how to actually navigate interpersonal relationships where everybody can walk away with a win, and I get to advance if I want up the corporate ladder because I know how to create wins around me and collaborate where people are like, hey, I want Amer to come here. I want Amer to get this job. I want Amer for this problem that I'm having. And so those are just a few amount of skills that I was able to uncover. Most of them revolve around like building a business. So, you know, I didn't even touch on hiring, managing all the people, maintaining a culture, having people want to work and be excited to work. Mindset wise, I think the biggest thing I discovered from Student Works is what I'm actually capable of. Like I'll just be transparent. I mean, I didn't have that much self-confidence, you know. Yes, I had some result socially, I got some validation in high school. It seemed like I was in the right track, but if you kind of got my 18-year-old version of myself and kind of pinned him in the corner, there was like no foundation there for any of my confidence.
Right.
And so having an environment with an already proven system. Hey, Amer, you want to make this much money? Do these things. Hey, Amer, you want to accomplish this skill? Do these things. That allowed me, it gave me permission to play.
Right.
And actually explore what it looks like to perform. And I think that's massive, because I think by default, I may be like a nervous, fearful. I'll delay. I'll sleep on it. I
Right.
don't want to ruffle any feathers.
Sure.
But with the right support, right infrastructure, and already a proven methodology, all I had to do was just trust.
Right.
And you guys are trustworthy, so why wouldn't I?
Yeah. Yeah, no, and so it's obviously really common for people to have an ambition and then fears, right? And the imposter syndrome, and can I really do this, et cetera. And you had an incredible first year in the program, really with Michael, and then with Vanessa, second year in the program, you broke our all-time rookie record, and then in third year, our previous record breaker had done 308,000, as I recall, and you set just a massive goal to do $500,000, and it really, in many ways, transformed the program over the last number of years. Now that number, it's not like it's common, but they're regularly having people 400, 350, 500, 700.
Well, it's inflation, honestly, Chris. I mean, there's no,
And
other,
that's
there's
what
no
it is.
other reason. Yeah.
But I wanted to talk about that incredible summer and just the high level of integrity that you committed to your program and what that meant for you.
Yeah, I think there was a study that you introduced me to, or somebody close to me, around what success looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it was explained to me like this. I'll try my best, but we are social creatures. We mimic our environment. If you are put in an environment of successful people, you will also become successful.
Right.
You are the 5 people you surround yourself with.
Yes.
And so when I met Michael Hawley, some of the things, like, again, understanding integrity was very important.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you hang out with somebody like Michael, you also start reading the same books he is.
Yeah.
You start figuring out, I can listen to something else other than music. There's
Right.
something called a podcast.
That's right.
You can attend seminars,
Mm-hmm.
like the Landmark
Yes.
Forum.
Yes.
And you can do things like Toastmasters.
Yeah.
So it's all these things combined together that allowed me to tap into and understand, hey, if I just do what successful people do, then I think I can be successful. So for my first year and second year in StudentWorks, that's all I really tried to do. Is there's like a programmer saying, it's garbage in, garbage out. It's the same when it comes to playing the game of business. So I just actually decided to be a student.
Right.
And when you combine that with, yes, I worked very hard to extract as much as possible from Michael. I would call as many people in the company as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I would read all these books. I would work day and night to just put in all this information. And so from that sparked this idea of, I want to experience a certain level of business. And here at StudentWorks gave me this opportunity to experience something that I really do believe a few people ever get to experience. And I think every business owner, it would be like a right of theirs to experience.
Right.
What would it look like if you ran a business that didn't need you in the day-to-day?
Right.
That was the question I tried to answer. So in the first year, I was able, with Michael, I was able to shadow and like learn from him how he ran a very well-oiled machine. And so when I went out and actually worked more in depth with the program, and now I had my own location, my own business, and I got to earn that right, I wanted to not be involved in the day-to-day.
Right.
And so hired some people, and I was able to achieve that at a small scale.
Mm-hmm.
But I had my profits weren't exactly where I wanted them, and I was still involved in the marketing and sales. And so in my second year, I said, hey, what if I made the profit that I wanted to make? What if I was completely removed from the day to day, including sales and marketing? What skills would I need to possess? And then let's work backwards.
Right.
And so, who do I need it to be? What ingredients do I have to consume to accomplish that? Because the ingredients I consume create the ingredients in the business, and then those ingredients get the result.
Right.
So the ingredients of a sales manager, a marketer, a foreman, multiple crews, how do I get that? And then if I had that infrastructure and I maxed it out, how much money can this business bring in? And that's where the 500 came from.
Right.
And so it was incredible. There was one time, it was in July, and we wrapped up a job where I think I made like $1,000 from that job. And the job was only a week long, and I never met the client.
Right.
I had no idea who the client was.
Right.
I saw their name in the system.
Yeah.
I had somebody in my team find the lead, sell the lead, transfer over to the production team where they created the plan, produced it, did final touch-ups, collected the final check. Everybody was happy and got their part of the deal.
Right.
And then I still got mine.
Right.
And so that's a little bit of how I look at it.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And you know, I know you know, it's a big thing that we teach in this business is kind of the reverse math. A lot of businesses talk about forecasting, and instead for us we break it down. If we want this goal, these are the things that it's going to be necessary. This is how many hours of marketing. This is how many sales estimates. This is at what conversion. This is the percentage gross margin we can expect to earn. You know, and just really, really breaking it down and seeing the inputs that we need to have to create that business.
Yeah.
And then post StudentWorks, you went and decided to do something, you know, even more challenging, which is creating an entirely new model. An entirely different model. And so why don't you share, you know, what that's been like, how StudentWorks has been impactful in that creation of contracting.com.
Yeah, contracting.com it would not have existed without StudentWorks. Mm-hmm. I just want to like set the record straight. No way. It's just not possible. Yeah. So that's that. It started actually in my last year in StudentWorks,
right,
where I had a lot of success that I was very happy with. And to me, I measure success with all the promises that I made, were they kept?
Yes.
And on top of that, plus, did everybody win?
Yeah.
Plus, did I make the net profit that I wanted?
Right.
Because revenue, vanity,
yes,
profit is sanity, but cash flow is reality. Did I cash flow the thing I wanted to cash flow?
Yes.
And I did. I cash flowed the amount that I wanted to go start out this business.
Right.
And it started out because, again, the systems that you guys teach are so good that I had a competitor of mine in this affluent neighborhood in Toronto, at the heart of it, not like some sneaky side neighborhood. It's like the place to be, where my business, I was a measly 21-year-old punk following the StudentWorks systems, and my main competitor in that area, who was running for 20 years, forced himself. Indirectly, I forced him to switch and target a different neighborhood.
Wow.
We outmarketed him, outsold him, outproduced him, and delivered that quality.
Wow.
Now, if you get him in this room right now, I would admit right here, like on camera, he is way better at the hard skills in the day-to-day than I am.
Right.
He can paint like nobody's business. Been doing it for 40 years. His trade skill, unparalleled.
Right.
But that's only one element of a business.
Correct.
And so when you learn how to be a good manager, a good leader, a good executive in the business, that's what the results. So I remember walking away from that experience being like, man, this dude, like if he just had the right business structures, what could he be capable of? And that was the bug that kind of caught me.
Oh.
I was like, okay, I felt very blessed to get to where I am.
Right.
And me and my friend had a debate around this, like how much of your life is luck versus all that. I'll just lean a little bit that there's definitely, I think, some luck there.
For sure.
And I feel super blessed to even be here sitting in front of you. And so what I decided was, let me go start this business, contracting.com, where I can take some of my information. I can partner with somebody even smarter than myself, like Patrick, who has tons of experience
Right.
in the trade as well. And what if we put our heads together and try to help that carpenter who's 34 years old, who just had, some kids, they're under the age of 10.
Right.
And his wife is overwhelmed and he's overwhelmed. He has no idea how to hire. He's
Right.
barely breaking even. What if I help that guy? What would
Right.
that look like? And so in 2020, that's when I kind of started that, and it's definitely not easy. I can go in both
Yeah, no,
detail.
because that's actually one of the things I did want to dive into is I know it hasn't been easy, and I know really that first year. Why don't we talk about just the trials and tribulations that first year or longer before you really found your setting and your grounding.
Totally. So the reason it was so tough is because I didn't have the environment that StudentWorks had.
Oh, okay.
So all of a sudden, you remove me from this environment. No systems, no mentorship, nothing. It's just me in the dark in
Right.
my room
Right.
with this idea.
Right.
I mean, all the bad habits that I thought I had control over, all of that just came rushing in. Watching YouTube, playing video games, not reading as much as I should, not going to the gym. And I think I'm a pretty disciplined person,
Yes.
but I wasn't hanging out with the same people.
Okay.
I had much more time on my hands, and I couldn't just call people from StudentWorks. They're doing their thing. I'm trying to build this whole other thing.
Right.
And so I had to restart from scratch. So I was really in my way because I didn't have that environment.
Okay.
And I think that's the biggest upside, which Michael Hawley made clear to me. He's like, Amer, I remember he looked me in the eye, Amer, if you want to go run a business, do it with a franchise model.
Right.
It's proven, and you'll have the support and the environment.
Right.
Don't just go out and start your own business.
Right.
That's just so unnecessary.
Right.
It's just not needed. There's already the knowledge out there, the support out there. And you guys give a pretty good deal.
Right.
It's such a no-brainer. Why wouldn't you? And so you remove me from my environment, and then all of a sudden self-doubt comes in, all the bad habits. Okay, we got to control those. Okay, control those. Then you sit there and you're like, nothing exists.
Right.
I have to create something from nothing. So things that I didn't have to develop as skills, now I have to develop as skills, like my ability to not be a perfectionist, designing systems from scratch,
Right.
Figuring out branding, building a website, all these measly activities that you technically should be hiring somebody for, but I was bootstrapping. I
Yes.
didn't want to just spend the money. Let me go learn how to do that.
Right.
Again, you guys saved me a lot of money by when I worked with you guys, because I didn't have to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
And so that was a failure. And then didn't know how to run ads, didn't know what service delivery looked like, didn't know how to price. So first year, spent $60,000 out of my own pocket to just keep myself well fed because there was no money coming in.
Right.
Second year, I spent $100,000 on Facebook ads, USD,
Wow.
to make $100,000. So I was just complete break even, which means I lost money because I have my personal expenses. And there was this one moment, Chris, it was in November. I call it the walk.
Right.
Two bank accounts, for whatever reason, I had set up. There was a bank with our credit card and the bank with the checking account.
Right.
We lost 9,000 US dollars. I think it was in September, and then lost 6,000 in October, something like that. And I remember in November, we had enough money to run ads for one more month. I swear to God. I walked to the bank to pull out our last little bit of money so I can put it to the credit card so that when Facebook charges my credit card, it wouldn't bounce.
Right.
Because you got to keep the ads running.
Yes.
And when your back's against the wall and you're surrounded by some good friends, you start to realize, hey, maybe if I put my ego down for a second, I can write a better ad where I'm not the star of the ad.
Okay.
Maybe if I stop being so entitled to doing phone calls and sales calls, and I just started calling the people that opt into my business,
Okay.
maybe that would work.
Okay.
And so I started collecting people's phone numbers and I wrote a better ad. And in December, we made $20,000 in US profit.
Right.
And that's when I was like, oh, okay. These
Changes, these modifications.
changes and modifications, but it's also a deeper understanding of a concept.
Yeah.
I've always understood through Stoneworks the dangers of ego.
Yeah.
And so I would conquer a level of it. But then there's another level that
Always
comes up
another
that you're
level.
not aware of.
Yeah.
And so you have to deepen that knowledge. It's never ending. I
Yeah.
mean, just recently, I'm still learning. So
Yeah, no, I am too. And so there's also just the system continues to improve. And that I remember Patrick telling me about that modification, that was a critical modification of calling the contractors, that in many businesses, they'll respond back online, they'll get back. But a contractor is, imagine them in their truck, driving to the next job site, picking up a tool, but they'll pick up a phone call.
Yeah.
And not at all those times, but a bunch of those times.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm driving over here. Oh yeah, I wanted to talk to you. That what you marketed to me, spoke to me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't so tainted with me trying to just look good.
Yes.
It was actually like, hey, well, let me just actually just point out some other things about my story where I'm not just the star.
Right. Right.
Again, need to be liked, all this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so since then, the business has made a lot of progress.
Yes,
And
it
so
has.
going from barely breaking even to
Yeah.
having a good month, and now you've been recruiting staff. And so where have you been finding your staff, and how has that worked for you?
Yeah. So the majority of my staff, and I want to get this stat right. I think as of this recording, 100% of all of full-time people in contracting.com are StudentWorks alumni.
Right.
And you wonder why we're doing somewhat well. It's like, yeah, it's because they have that foundation of knowledge, foundation of thinking, a healthy mindset, a healthy understanding of what competition looks like, and the bare bone ingredients to what makes them successful people. And so again, I had to deserve these people. And so, yeah, in 2022, after those changes, we had a big month in February. Again, could have just drawn the money out and celebrated and bought a Rolex, keep the money in, made the first hire, learned how to develop that system. And then in October, in September, October of 2023, hired our first ever full-time individual. It was Joe.
Right.
And then I started building the sales team there. In January, we hired like a customer fulfillment individual, kind of like a district manager.
Right.
And then in May of 2023, we hired someone to help us with our marketing full-time. And so we have been growing steady. I think we are now at like 12 full-time people.
Wow.
Which is very cool. And in our trailing 12 months, we've done around 3 million, which is pretty cool.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, which is pretty, yeah.
Wow. Congratulations.
Canadian.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And so if you think about the culture of the 12 people that you have, those StudentWorks people, how would you describe them? Just because I imagine that they're just rolling over from, what we created into contracting.com.
Yeah. I mean, if they say they're going to do something, they do it. If they're upset about something, they bring it up.
Yeah.
If I make a mistake, they're gracious.
Yeah.
They communicate with me.
Yeah.
If they're stuck, they do their own thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like having a bunch of business partners.
Yeah.
One of my favorite moments, I know you had Brian Scudamore on.
Yes.
And that's like, again, like an amazing podcast. So for
Yes.
anyone who has listened to this, you have to go listen to the Brian Scudamore one. He has a book. I think he's now like a billionaire.
Yeah.
And he would never say that
Yes.
himself, but I think he is.
Yes.
I always tell people who don't know Brian, it's like today, in this moment, his business will, I think, do around $1 million in revenue. Easy.
Yeah, no, it's. I think I just heard from Cameron Harrell today. It's $750 million annually.
Okay, there you go.
Just 1-800-GOT-JUNK, and they've got other brands.
That's insane. So it's probably like 2 to 3 million now. In his book, Willing to Fail, he talks about in the beginning of building 1-800-GOT-JUNK, he just wouldn't have fun going to work.
Yeah.
And he didn't know why. And then he looked at his staff, and he had like 8 people, and they didn't have a heart of a founder.
Yeah.
Is what he said. They don't take the same amount of ownership. They're not as excited to work. They're not as driven by the mission. They're just driven by a paycheck. Oh, my girlfriend asked me to get a job. You know, they come to work smelling like weed sometimes.
Yeah.
And he nuked his entire team.
Yeah.
He woke up one day, he's like, this is not what I want to be.
Right.
And so I feel very grateful because I didn't have to go through this experience, because from the get-go, I'm working with individuals like the alumni from StudentWorks that are beauties, is probably the best way to say it. And yeah,
I loved the examples that you gave, and one other example as well, I think, is really key to the foundation of StudentWorks, and when they leave as well, is they're cooperative and competitive at the same time. So it's like, I want to be better. I want to continue to be better. I want to be better than you, Joe, or whoever, and I'm going to be cooperative at the same time.
Yeah.
Most people don't have that, so it creates just a wonderful environment. You know, I'm striving to get better, and I'm not going to do anything anti-competitive, and just perform at my best possible.
Yeah. I think the reason for that is there's a sense of security, like emotional security, that alumni from StudentWorks have. It's because they actually have inherent skills,
Right.
with where they're coming from.
Yes.
So when you have inherent skill and you trust that you can deliver results, because again, you're in a great environment like StudentWorks, there's not as many insecurities. And so if there's no insecurities, at least this is just my observation, I don't have to break down Bob for me to succeed. I don't have to tear down his business. I don't have to like manipulate or do something unethical out of a fear or an insecurity that if I just did the work, that's not going to be good enough.
Right.
And so what I've observed is that when I've hired from the StudentWorks alumni pool, you have individuals that actually have skills.
Yes.
And actually have built trust with themselves because they've gotten actual results in the world.
Right. Yeah.
And it's only possible because they actually learned something working with StudentWorks.
Yeah. The other thing I always like to point out is that for most people working in a job, they see their job as doing the things that their boss told them to do. And they see it like a box. And they don't see that this is an organism called this business, which is, as you're saying, looking to, satisfy customers, satisfy employees, return capital to the business owners who put money into the business. And so that they see it much broader than most people, so that they're not just looking to do their job, they're looking to do their job in communion with all the other parts of their job. And rather than all that matters, I answer the phone, all that matters is the phone's being answered. No. This is just one part of the business, and seeing all of the commingling of activities. I think that's really helpful too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the best analogy is, like to piggyback off that, is a business is kind of like a boat. It's going somewhere. That's the mission it's driving for. And then everybody in this boat is rowing together.
Right.
If you have a guy in there who's rowing the boat, understanding that if he's in sync with the other people,
right,
and that the mission is worth going for, and I appreciate everybody else on the boat, it's probably going to row in sync and with passion.
Yeah.
And so that's because they have context, versus a guy who he doesn't see himself on a boat.
Yeah.
He just sees himself as that paddle holder.
Love that
and all
analogy.
I need to do is just wiggle this thing. But this guy behind me is going too slow, man. This guy sucks. We need to fire this guy. It's like, no, how about you just have a conversation, you know? Let's let's change your paddle speed. But it's all just focusing on the wrong thing. It's
Yeah.
all a part of a bigger machine. So
Uh,
you're absolutely right. The business context that they have makes it so much fun to go to work and work together as a team.
Yeah, yeah. No, and that's one of our values: work hard, play hard, have fun. And I love that analogy. That's the first I've heard of that. That's great. And so, how do you look at your university career or going to university versus what you learn at StudentWorks?
I I personally I personally see university, if done right, and like I think there's debates now about how good university really is, and you
Right.
have some important thinkers out there like Jordan Peterson, who's starting his own university
Yeah.
because you have universities that are not upholding to the standards that we hope that they would uphold to.
Right.
In a best case scenario, I personally believe that a university is there to teach you how to think.
Right.
It's theoretical. Hey, here's how you problem solve. X plus Y equals Z.
Hmm.
Solve for this. Philosophy. Here's this logical argument. Tell me if it's necessary, sufficient. Political science. Here's this problem that happened in Rwanda. Here's why it happened. It's like, okay, it's theory. You're
Hmm.
teaching me how to structure my thoughts into like to write an essay. You're teaching me how to problem solve. If you're in biology or in medical school, a lot of theory, but like specifically engineering medical school, it's when you actually get placed in a hospital or in a firm that you start to like, whoa, okay, this is totally different.
Right.
Totally different. And so I think the way StudentWorks is designed is genius because you get to go to university to learn the theory and learn how to think. And then all of a sudden you have this sandbox, this incredible sandbox environment and support to apply this theory and get real tangible results immediately back. I learned how to think. I found the right mentors, and then I joined StudentWorks. And in one of my years in StudentWorks, it was incredible because I was able to pay off my student debt
Hmm.
in 1 year. Now, I'm not saying that's going to be the experience for everybody,
Right.
but what I'm saying is there's no ceiling to this. You provide value, you will get value.
Right.
And so, yeah, the way it's constructed makes total sense because you want to be able to learn the theory and how to think in university. And then with StudentWorks, you actually apply and learn practical skills. Like, hey, how do you have a good phone call where the other person won't just hang up on you?
Yeah.
Or they don't hang up on you, but like they just kind of they walk away feeling annoyed.
Right.
How do you have an employee who's not listening to you and resenting you secretly, reveal their resentment, communicate openly with you, and then go around and become a rock star who's
Yeah.
like driving this business for you? These are practical skills that you guys teach
Yeah.
that are applicable. Even if you don't want to run a business, if you want to run like a hospital one day or be an executive of a massive corporation, these are leadership skills.
Yeah, no. And I love that distinction. I think that's quite accurate. I took history in school. And again, I learned how to communicate, learned how to think, and it was very valuable and certainly very separate from the things I learned as an operator at StudentWorks years ago. So, and so what did you need to change about yourself to become the value creator you are in the world today?
A lot of things. A lot of things personally. I think I think learning more to be a collaborator, something to tie earlier to what I was saying.
Hmm.
Uh, that's what integrity is. It's I make a commitment to you that I'm going to be here at a specific time, and then I'm here.
Right.
And so I had to learn to maybe change my view on how I perceived what business is. Because when I first started out, I didn't really trust easily.
Right.
You know, when I was in middle school, I was bullied.
Right.
And I wasn't constantly bullied, but there was one incident where I chose like to stop trusting people. And so my natural inclination before I met Michael Hawley is to go for like a quick deal.
Right.
like a one-sided deal. Like in middle school, this one time, I would find like pencils on the ground, sharpen them, clean them up, hold on to them until exam season. And then when somebody's like doesn't have a pencil to get to the exam, I would like sell it to them at an unfair price.
Right.
Okay, that person does not like me,
Right.
but they were forced to do a transaction.
Right.
That's how I thought it was to be done. I would have been doomed, man.
Right.
And so I had to learn collaboration and long-term collaboration and the value of that. I had to learn how to manage myself.
Right.
So, for example, when setting up this podcast, we talked about a certain time, and I could have been more clear in my communication. And my old self would have been like mind reading. Oh, Chris is upset. Chris is angry. Chris
Right.
thinks less of me. So there's this mind reading, catastrophizing,
Right.
where I would be entering the spiral of like, oh, what's going on here? But now I'm like, hey, I'm not gonna mind read. Here's on my end. I'm sure he understands. It seems like he understands. He said that to me.
Yeah.
He said that it's no big deal.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna trust him and I'm gonna move on.
Yeah.
That's another thing I learned is managing all these unhelpful thinking styles where
Yeah.
I just blame myself,
Yes.
try to be a people pleaser,
Yeah.
let fear drive me, have ego constantly whisper in my ear to do things so that I look good.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times in business, it's not about looking good. It's about going to an employee that you promised something and being like, hey, I failed. Like
Yeah.
as a leader, I have failed.
Yeah.
I mean, I've learned also how to manage what used to be what I thought was my normal impulsivity. In class, on Snapchat, on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok, hit the bars, go to this party, all this stuff in your face. And I'm like, try to sit down to like design a spreadsheet or like think for like an hour straight. And I'm like, I can't do this.
Right.
School's probably not for me. Well,
Right.
no, while in school and from school, I learned, oh no, like self-discipline. I'm lacking that.
Yeah.
Hey, instead of maintaining 7 Snapchat streaks and scrolling through the TikTok algorithm, frying my brain,
Yeah.
maybe if I pause doing that for 2 days, I can actually maintain a single thought for 30 minutes.
Right.
So I learned how to manage my brain.
Yeah.
And right now, as I sit here today, I'm learning how to manage fear at a different level.
Okay.
So, for example, like recently, and again, this is all built on foundations that I've learned from StudentWorks. But recently, because this business is doing well, I've discovered that there's this natural inclination to kind of put the brakes on. Oh, let's not lose all of this. Let's not make all these mistakes. And I would default to leaning out and strategizing versus leaning in, trusting the team and being resourceful. And so instead of taking 4 months to let go a guy that is not a good fit and moving him to a different position,
Right.
you could have done that, a month in.
Right.
And so what I'm learning is, okay, there's these some fears and worries. For me to advance beyond them, I have to like raise my standards.
Yeah. Well, Amer, I just love like all the lessons you're taking and being able to be thoughtful of them. And this is sort of something for our leaders to really think about is I believe what takes that is a lot of thoughtfulness, a lot of thinking, a lot of, introspection. How did my day go? And then, oh, that happened. What could have been better? What might have been a better result? What was a better way of thinking? I can see you're doing that a lot, which is wonderful. And again, that's what high performers do. So we've got one more question, and that is, what would you say to someone who's considering joining StudentWorks?
I mean, if you are considering to join StudentWorks, then why are you considering it? Like, what is missing from you right now from making the jump, having that second conversation, asking that question that's like in your way. That's what I would say. And in general, if I was talking to my old self, I
Right.
think what I would say is, hey, look, if you want to play the game of business, and that can be either running your own business or advancing in another person's business as an executive, there are some soft skills and hard skills that you have to develop that you can develop outside of student works, but at much, much slower speed. And so, old Amer, if you're watching this, recognize that these soft skills and hard skills is what allows for the success you want to get. The best way to get anything in life is to deserve it. And if you don't know what a deal looks like, if you don't even know how to price something, if you don't know how to build a team and maintain a team outside of just frosh or a classroom project, and maybe like myself, I had some talents, but I want to be world class at what I do. This is not about like going from like, oh, I'm bad, I need some help, let me get good. Yes, there's definitely value there. This is really about going from like good to great. It's like, yes, you probably are smart. Yes, you definitely have some talents. Yes, you're a sociable person. Yes, you've been told growing up that you can be successful, that you will be successful. That is true. It's to the degree of what you want to achieve and the success of the level of success that you want to tap into. I know I want to play a big game. I want to do big things.
Right.
And I want to have a big impact on the world. I don't want ever to look my dad in the eyes and feel like I could have played out all out more. I don't want to look any person on my team in the eye and make them feel like, oh, I could have been a better leader. I could have done a better job. And then one day I'm going to have kids, and I don't want to ever have one of them walk up to me and be like, hey, Amer, why's why's Joe's house bigger than ours?
Right.
Oh, it's because your dad took some shortcuts. It's because your dad resorted to anxiety, fear, and irrationality when making decisions. It's because your dad wasn't willing to have a conversation to explore that other level. Now, maybe a bigger house isn't something I care for,
Right.
but I do care to live a big life and, for me personally, break the generational curse. And so if you're considering to join Student Works, don't get it twisted. They don't need you. There's actually an overwhelming amount of people who are knocking on their door. The question you want to ask yourself is, once you join Student Works, what game do you want to play in the program? Do you want to slide by and just do the bare minimum? Or do you actually want to extract as much value as humanly possible and change the fate of yourself and your family's finances, as well as what your career could potentially look like? Because I know for myself, and I can only speak for myself, the skills that I have learned, the people that I have met, and the money that I've been able to make have changed my life truly. Contracting.com would not exist without StudentWorks. And the positive things that I've seen in my life, I've been able to get to them much, much faster because of this program. I sit here at 26 years old, recognizing that I'm able to achieve certain things that maybe if I went out in the wild, I would have been able to achieve by like 30 or 35. But you just saved me 9 years. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Just awesome. I really appreciate you being so generous as to give us an hour of your time in such a busy time. And again, just so appreciate, all that you do for the program. And I know you'll come quite often and talk to our talk to our operators. And obviously we really appreciate that. Thanks so much, Amer.
Appreciate it as well. Thank you.
Awesome.